do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
What the is that, dude?
Well, g'day, folks. How you going? A little bit of a quick pre-record to kick off the show tonight because time being what it is and people being what they are, they get busy at different times. So we've tried to coordinate some times today to get a hold of a good friend of the show who has mysteriously popped up in the 7 Gaslight program. I'm going to call it Gaslight from now on. It's not Spotlight. It's a bloody gaslighting. That's all they did in that program, the debate over this medical farce that's been happening and perpetrated against us for the last 4 years or more. At any rate, I was not too surprised, pleasantly so, must I say, when I saw this shock of white hair in the audience. And I thought, well, there's going to be some good questions coming. And what do you know? Never saw hide nor hair of him outside sitting in the background. So I wanted to find out what sort of questions were available to be asked. Panel that they had assembled at Channel 7, and I figured what better way to find that out than to ask one of the blokes who was sitting there, Sean Ambrose. Good afternoon, mate, or good evening as the case is right now. Thanks for coming on, mate. I got a bit of a shock when I saw your smiling face sitting there in the audience at the 7 Gaslight program. I guess you, like many of us, were hoping that debate would actually afford you the opportunity to ask a question or maybe rebut an answer. You didn't get any of that, did you?
Yeah, Carl, it was actually rather disappointing. On reflection, it was also a good experience, because it just demonstrated once again, the farce that the mainstream media actually are. But yeah, I actually did ask a question, and I had the camera put on me regarding the question. But unfortunately, it never got put to the panel.
So we should point out that this show was recorded about a week and a half before it went to air. So how long were you in the studios? We got an hour and 7 minutes, I think it was. But how long did the debate, and I call it that with my tongue firmly planted in my cheek, how long did it actually run time?
From memory, Carl, there was about 2.5 hours of recording. There was plenty of material. There was actually a lot of angst in the crowd. Unfortunately, we only had one person on the panel who was on our side, and that was Gigi Foster.
Yeah.
And to her credit, she held herself well and, exposed these cretins.
I thought she did a great job, and she tried to hold panel members to account. But I get the feeling the audience were trying to do that too, and all of that was edited out.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Carl. It was quite interesting. So we had no idea when we entered the audience whether it was going to be hostile, and these people were all going to be pro-vaxxers or rent a crowd, or we actually had no idea of what we were getting ourselves into. And then as the show rolled on, I thought, hang on, these people are all, they're all part of the freedom movement. They're all truthers, so it was quite. And you've obviously seen and heard some of the some people have recorded actually went on in the studio, and that's now doing the rounds through social media. So it was actually quite heartening.
Let me just see if I can. Yeah, and I might there we go. I might be able to bring this up. And we can play that. This is a couple of minutes from memory, about 3 minutes, that I think is very important for people to watch, because it shows from behind the scenes exactly what questions, and particularly one question, was asked and how it was sort of dodged or moved around, and we never got to see it on TV. So just have a watch of this one, folks.
But the people who've had COVID, who haven't been vaccinated, get more severe disease and they're more likely to get long COVID.
Once the vaccines get rolled out, and now we've had, over 12, 13 billion doses given worldwide.
That's great. I'm really pleased for you.
I'm
but
sorry.
The people who've had COVID, excuse me, let me finish. The people who've had COVID, who haven't been vaccinated, get more severe disease and they're more likely to get long COVID.
Bullshit.
So
Bullshit. That's fucking lies, mate.
You should hand your licence back.
That's the biggest lie. That is the biggest lie, because
Snake oil salesman.
I'm loving that you've got views. Please interject, and I want to get to as many questions. Don't swear. I'm not going to cop it in the audience, so please don't do that. Carry on.
thank you for your response, and I would like to respond to that. Now we have to do research on the unvaccinated in relation to long COVID to see who is actually getting this thing called long COVID, or the effects of the vaccine injuries, and that is what it should be attributed to long COVID.
We're going to address long COVID in the next segment as well.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to one of our medical experts about that, so hopefully they'll answer those questions for you.
Thank you. I just want to point to the Koch Institute, one of the leading research institutes, who we gathered evidence from for our legal case against the TGA and the Health Minister on the presentation of acquired immunodeficiency syndromes in relation to the COVID vaccines that is coming through. I suggest that all relevant investigations should be done, and those who are to be accountable in the government, including Anastasia Palachuk and all the other government establishments against corruption. Thank you very much.
Bloody oath.
Does anyone have a reasonable question to ask the panel on the stage? I'll ask it again. Up the back, thank you.
Wow. Does anybody have a reasonable question to ask the panel? That's what Michael Usher got from that.
Yeah, it's. I actually, Carl, I actually asked a question of two producers, so the producer and then the co-producer. And when I spoke to the producer, initially spoke to the producer, they put the camera on me and they said, what's the question you want to ask? So I made a point of giving the background to the question, and it related to Section 52 of the Trade Practices Act, 1974. Now, Section 52, and I'll try and recall the wording. It states a corporation in trade or commerce. A corporation engaged in trade or commerce shall not engage in deceptive or misleading conduct. Now, then I went to Section 44 of the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901, where a member of Parliament cannot have an allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power. Now, at this point, the producer, he was sweating, and he says, he goes, what's your point? He goes, what's your point? I said, well, I've got to I just want to give you the background so I can get to the point of the question. I said, we have members of Parliament who are actively conspiring with foreign powers and against the interests of the Australian people. I said, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations and the World Health Organization would by definition constitute a foreign power. I said, these vaccines, they've claimed that they're safe and effective. I said, they're not safe and effective at all. And I said, in fact, they do not do what they're supposed to do. I said, this is where we get back to Section 52, deceptive and misleading conduct. He was sweating. This guy was absolutely sweating. Okay, he said, look, he goes, if you can keep it short and sweet like you just have, he goes, we can ask that question of the panel. I said, okay, no worries. Later on in the program, the other producer, the co-producer, comes around and he says, does anyone have any questions? And I put my hand up again. He says, what's your question? I outlined it to him again. He says, okay. He goes, look, if you keep it short and sweet, he goes, we'll get to you. And of course, I never got to ask the question.
Yeah.
But just incredible, disappointing,
with were there others that wanted to ask questions too that maybe did get the opportunity to ask, they just were never heard or never received any kind of acknowledgement?
Yeah, there was another bloke my age who, you know, he wanted to ask a question as well, and interestingly, he had some documentation there in regard to an FOI. It was obviously a constitutional matter, and I couldn't exactly what was said, but I do recall him handing the document over to the producer. You know, and of course, this guy got, you know, he just got whitewashed as well. You know,
Yeah,
he got the cancelled treatment too.
Did you see any level of embarrassment from anybody at Channel 7 while they were doing this?
I think they were. They obviously did not expect, you know, the level of angst from the audience, and I guess you would say, like, there are a lot of people in the audience that knew what they were talking about, like Aisha, for instance. So that was the girl that we just heard asking the question or pointing out that, you know, there should be a comparative study between vaccinated and the unvaccinated. They weren't expecting any questions like that at all, you know. Interestingly,
and you can tell in the TV edit that bloody professor, that fella from Sydney University, he was very flustered at different times in the television edit, but there was no reason for him to be flustered in what we had already seen. Now, after seeing some of the off-screen reaction that he got, no wonder he went from sitting pretty comfortably at the start of that to looking very uncomfortable very shortly into it, and stayed that way the whole way through, because clearly he was saying a lot of stuff the audience was not agreeing with and were actively pushing back against.
That's absolutely correct, Carl. And rather interestingly, the last question that Michael Usher, the presenter, asked, and it was a blatant setup. So they had a stooge, you know, they had one of their shills in the crowd, and they actually knew his name. They said, "Oh, we've got someone here. I think his name was Paul from memory. And Paul, you're how many vaccines have you had?" And he says, "Oh, you know," the camera turns to him. "I think I've had 5 or 6 vaccines, and I'd have one in each arm again, you know, if I had the opportunity." And we're going like, "What? Like, are you on drugs?" And someone actually spoke to him after, when it all wrapped up. They said, "Mate," they said, "are you a stooge?" He goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I got an invite, you know, 2 days ago, and, you know, asked to come along." So he was like one of these actors, you know.
Yeah.
But it didn't go their way, and to further make the point that it didn't go their way, they actually ushered the panel out. They got them out of the studio before everyone else.
Yeah.
I think they're actually worried about their safety, like whether, you know, they were going to get abused or mobbed, or, you know.
Well, they were going to get asked a whole heap more questions and demand answers from them, and those people aren't in a position to give those answers. They might know the answers, but they're not in a position to share them.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I think a lot of good has come from this. It's exposed that, you know, the media are still trying to run this narrative of, you know, safe and effective, and, you know, get your vaccines, and, you know, get your bird flu vaccines and everything else, and it's not working.
Yeah,
it's not working. Interestingly, I didn't know this, but Aisha actually put the legal team together in regard to taking on the TGA and the Commonwealth. So there's a lot of things that are happening in the background that a lot of people don't know, and, you know, we need to get this information out there. So,
well, mate, by all means, share the name around, and if we can help promote awareness of this in any way, shape, or form, very happy to.
Yeah, it's So there's a class action underway at the moment. Now it's also got something to do with Dr. Melissa McCann. She's made a number of freedom of information requests, and she's
been touring with Tucker Carlson and explaining what she's doing there as part of her class action. And now that the Tucker Carlson tour is concluded, I might be able to get her on the show for a chat. It's a very important action, and certainly if you've been affected in any way, shape, or form by the jab, it's one you want to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
huge. So it's been a little while since you and I have caught up, but I see you've become a TikTok star.
yeah. I like. I don't mind the TikTok, Carl.
Now, the thing that's got me with TikTok is that you know that it's Chinese Communist Party owned.
Yeah. Look, if it's
and
not...
there's you wandering around on a Chinese Communist Party owned platform wearing a Sputnik News shirt. So who are you working for? Are you working for the Russian communists or are you working for the Chinese communists?
Yeah. It's no, it's an interesting take. It's definitely an interesting take because you do know I was mentored by the communist, Carl, back in my days.
Mate. Yes, yes, yeah. In fact, maybe we can enlighten people a little bit more about you, because if you're new to Voice of Freedom, you may not have seen Sean on previous programs. he's not like really a regular, but he does pop up a bit. And I would have to say, if I had to categorize you, mate, I would put you down as the modern day, well, prior to all the bullshit, the modern day John Wilson, working behind in the unions and that kind of thing. So yeah, you've been very well schooled in the way the Communist Party works and the Labor Party works. You're a very big Labor Party man for many, many years, until they shat on you as well. Explain. I mean, explain just what sort of a political actor you can be.
Well, I've so I began my working life on the waterfront the day I discharged from the army. So this is quite a while ago now, 1997. My father took me into the union rooms, and I got my my red book, signed up to the union. Then went through the 98 dispute. I was I was only 21 years of age when that happened. Got introduced to Kim Bees on the picket line. And I've got there's actually a photo of that, and that began my political, I guess you'd say, my political activism within the party. From the 98 Patrick dispute, I got trained up as a union delegate, and the rest is kind of history. But I've been involved in that many industrial disputes. I've lost count. Industrial campaigns, building industrial campaigns, political campaigns. I'll give you one. Just before, I think it was just before COVID, Gladys Berejiklian came to Helensburgh, and I got a phone call. So I'm the guy who used to do all the dirty work. I'd go and shirt front people. So,
because you're not a little bloke.
No, I'm not little. So I get a phone call. Sean, Gladys Berejiklian is coming to town. What can you do? And I do solo protests. I've got no
allegiances.
I'm not scared of doing that. So I get the pig mask out. I get dressed up in in a clean white shirt, blue tie, the black slacks. Get the pig mask out. And this is all being done, I get a phone call. 20 minutes later, I'm up there. And so I've had to put this together on the run,
Yeah.
I've had to go and stash the car, and I've had to, play this out in my head, how I'm going to make the confrontation.
Yeah. Get in and get out.
Yeah. Stash the car. And as I'm walking down toward where Gladys was, I'm scanning, I'm looking everywhere for, protective services officers and police officers and everyone else. And I spot them all, and I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this and not get shot? So I wait till the very last minute. I cross the road. As I've just gone behind a car, I've quickly knelt down, put the pig mask on, and next minute I'm quick marching. I'm quick marching to the business.
Yeah.
It all happened so quickly. This protective service officer has seen me. He spun around. He goes, whoa. He goes, who are you? Where are you going? He goes, stop. He goes, who are you? And I said, I'm a Liberal Party politician, and I'm here to sell my policies. He goes, whoa. He goes, you're not going in there, right? I said, yeah. I said, I'm going in there. Next minute, I had the ABC. I had it was the ABC, Channel 9. There was three of them. It might have been Channel 7. Anyway, the three of them on me. And next minute, all the journalists they're in a frenzy. What are your policies? What are your policies? What are your policies?
Yeah.
And I said, well, and by this stage, there's all these coppers around, and they're saying, "Take your mask off, take your mask off." And I said, I haven't caused a crime. I said, what crime have I caused? Why would I take the mask off?
Yeah.
And they said, we want to know who you are. And I said, I'm a Liberal Party politician. So I just stuck to the script. They said, and the media, they're in a frenzy. What are your policies? What are your policies? I said, we're going to privatise the police force. And then it was Fuller. Fuller was the commissioner. I said, Team Fuller.
Yeah.
Team Fuller, because he was all, wanting to cut back and, best mates with ScoMo and all the rest of it. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so I had the confrontation with him, and it put the wind up Gladys. She wasn't going to come out of the, she wasn't going to come out of the cafe. And then what it actually did was the media jumped on that, I guess, confrontation. They went down to the local butcher and got a scene from the butcher pulling out a side of pork, big side of pork. Yeah, and then they said, not everyone was there to chew the fat, and it made the national news. So,
right,
they're the kind of antics that I've pulled off over the years.
Well, mate, keep doing it for us, because more the merrier. Get in front of the cameras, spread more truth. We were talking before we started recording this, and we're both of the opinion now that there are a lot more people waking up. There's a lot more awareness in the community, and I find a lot more people asking questions. Are you finding that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a mass. My feeling is that there is a mass awakening occurring. We're at a turning point now. I mean, even for Channel 7 to come out, and I kind of feel like the media are at a point where they know they it's like the big lie, Goebbels and the big lie, and the lie can only be maintained. And I just forget the exact wording, but the lie can only be maintained to shield the basically the establishment, and then it gets to a point can't contain it anymore, and it's over. And I believe that's where we are at now, and people are waking up.
They are. Thank God. It's about bloody time. Mate, thank you for all the efforts that you're making on our behalf, and keep up the TikToking. You're a legend, for sure. And no doubt I'll catch up when I head south in the not too distant future. Yeah,
for sure. It's good to talk to you again, Carl.
You too,
as
mate.
Always.
As always. I can't reach it. I was going to say, I've got about this much left of one of those bottles that you have donated to the Voice of Freedom cause.
The elixir of life.
The elixir. And who aren't aware of what we're talking about, Sean is a bit of a distiller. Stay safe, won't you?
I will, Carl. You take care too.
Yep. Looks like we've had a bit of a connection. I'll take him out of there, and then I'm going to go and snap my fingers, and guess what? I'm going to be gone, and then I'm going to be back.
Good morning, all chickens, hens, roosters, and anyone in the bird community. On the advice of Dr. Kerry Chicken, we have decided on guidelines to ensure that all birds stay safe with the current bird flu outbreak. Firstly, all flock gatherings are limited to 5 birds per flock, and all birds must practice social distancing, flying at least 5 meters apart. I know this one might ruffle a few feathers, but all chickens are now required to wear masks at all times. Whether you're outside laying eggs or free-ranging in the field, you must be wearing a mask. All chickens and birds must remain within a 5-kilometre radius of their coops, your nests and trees. If caught outside your 5 kilometres of the paddock, you will be fined $1,000. The feed store is off limits unless it's for essential grains only. There is to be no browsing in your local feed aisles. We'd like to encourage all birds to keep their peckers and claws sanitised regularly. If you see a chicken breaking any of these restrictions, we ask the public to please call Crime Stoppers at 1300 Bird Crime.
There's some serious shit going on in the world, isn't there, folks? Pretty wild. Good evening, and welcome to the live part of the evening. Thanks for Sean to catch up earlier today. It was a good chat from him, and a lot of very good information there, a lot of good intel. As I see Chris has spotted. Good on you, Starseed. Hope things are going well, mate, in your part of the world. I have seen a whole heap of comments. I've starred a ton of them. Sunflower, first off the cab off the rank tonight. Do I happen to know if Australia has something like the US Chevron doctrine? No, we don't have anything like the Chevron doctrine. There may be other mechanisms, but they will be based in English law rather than American constitutional type loopholes. Don't know. Have to look a little bit deeper, but at this stage, no, not like the Chevron doctrine. As far as I'm aware here anyway. Is Sean a mate of John Setka? No. Not at all. Setka is CFMEU from memory. Sean had a little bit to do with them, but he was more Maritime Workers Union. He's been involved in the maritime industry basically since he got back or out of the army in the late 90s, where he was very accomplished in the field of things that he was trained to do. Hello, Michelle. Hope you're going well. People are going to get angry when they find out the truth, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in tonight's show in the not too distant future. I received a very interesting email this morning from someone after watching last night's show, where I pointed out the future of jails, or at least one potential future of jails, and that is the remapping of their minds, their brains. Prisoners would get a choice to, spend a long time in a cell, or to undergo a reprogramming. And I'll play you just a little bit of it again.
Welcome to Cognify, a facility designed to treat criminals like patients. Instead of spending years in an actual prison cell, prisoners could finish their sentence here in just a few minutes. Cognify could someday create and implant artificial memories directly into the prisoner's brain. These complex, vivid, and lifelike memories are created in real time using AI-generated content. Depending on the...
Okay, so you get the idea. They're going to reprogram the brain in days, minutes or days, rather than years or decades. As was pointed out in the email that I got today, this is not dissimilar to the medbed technology that we are all crossing our fingers for and wishing we had access to right now. And in fact, we already have heard stories, admittedly, that just this kind of technology is being used on the children that have been brought up out of the tunnels, to reprogram them, to give them happier memories. You might remember it was only a couple of years ago, there were great rumors around of millions of children being adopted into communities after they were being treated through this medbed technology. Still don't know whether or not any of that's true. We've never seen any of that confirmed. But then again, I don't know anybody who's picked up a new child in the last 4 years, be that like an adopted child. So I don't know if you know someone who's picked up an adopted child in the last 4 years. Got to raise the question, haven't you? But that's the sort of technology that we're told will be used to help those children who've been tortured and to replace memories that they will have with a lifetime of memories, I suppose, respectful to their age, that they can then go forward and, live a normal life, so to speak. I think that's a very valid point raised in the email, and to say, oh God, reprogramming criminals, but it's okay to reprogram kids who've gone through trauma and other adults who've gone through all sorts of trauma. Now, the question that I have extends on from that a little bit. So let's just say, for instance, God forbid, your partner, your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your uncle, your auntie, whatever, happens to be murdered. And they catch the murderer. The murderer is not a terribly nice person. Police suspect that they might have committed other murders, but at this point, they've got them for this one, and that's all they're going to get them for. They are found guilty after a trial and are sentenced to life imprisonment or re-education. Now, the re-education option means that they go into one of those pods and for days or weeks are reprogrammed. When they step out of that pod, if the advertising is to be believed, Cognify will have reprogrammed them completely to become a useful member in society rather than somebody who's a danger to it. Okay, I can see that. You're walking down the street a month after your relative, lover, other half has been murdered, and walking down the street towards you is the man or woman that did it. All reprogrammed, handing out, help advice and trying to do community work and do all the good things in the community that you see people doing. They're now doing that, running around. Do you feel justice has been served? Who's lost their life and can't participate anymore, versus the person who took that life, has undergone, a day, a week, and is now back out in society with no recollection, no memory, no knowledge of the heinous crimes they've committed. Is that justice? Would you, as a family member, be happy with that sort of sentence? Because that's the kind of sentence that is coming our way, folks. Make no doubt about it. These tree-hugging, nose-pierced, blue-haired freaks that are sitting on the bench will love being able to walk a criminal back out after 3 weeks of intensive re-education in a pod. But what about the other side of that coin? What about the family that's been damaged? What about the loved ones who are never going to see their loved one ever again, hear their voice, feel their touch? Now, thankfully, I haven't been in a position where I've lost someone to murder and that murderer is in jail paying for their crimes. Maybe someone watching the show tonight, maybe you, have been in that position. How would that make you feel? I mean, everybody gets out eventually, I suppose, particularly in this day and age with our courts. Get out on good behaviour, parole, all those good things to go out and apply your training, years of training that you had inside, back out into the real world. Is it justice, though, if the person who commits the crime doesn't really serve time, just gets re-educated so they don't do it again? And how strong is this re-education? And what would be the result if, for whatever reason, they did commit the same crime again? Given that they had no prior recollection of their previous crimes, they would think, oh, well, I just had a bad day and stabbed somebody, until they stand up in court and say, well, all right, this is the fourth time you've accidentally just stabbed somebody. You've been through. So would you just put them in the pod and turn it off? I would. Wash it out after they've died. That's fine. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of questions we're going to have to answer in the, well, I don't think too distant future. And I don't know exactly how many of them are going to be pleasant. Because that is quite the argument. If you're a good Christian, you'll want to turn the other cheek after somebody kills your beloved. You would especially expect them to be able to I'm getting a bit lost in it. Let's not get too deep. Let's get on to something else that's a little bit, well, I find this quite amusing, if I'm dangerous, very dangerous, but amusing. I don't know anybody stupid enough to own an electric vehicle, but if you happen to know somebody in that regard, or bless you, it happens to be you, I'm not casting aspersions on your level of intellect, but I would be very keen on conducting a test in it, around it. So if you're in Brisbane or the Gold Coast area and you've got an electric car and you wouldn't mind using it for a test, we don't have to drive it. All you got to do is park it. I'll come to you. It'll be very easy. Let's have a look and see what the test might entail, shall we?
So I am testing a Peugeot 208 electric, which I have to say is a really nice car. I've owned a 208 before. This is a great car, great chassis, works well. But this is the electric version. So now what I'm testing is the emissions coming off the battery. And you can see there, it's incredibly unhealthy. You've got massive electromagnetism, which is in the unhealthy range. I mean, this is off the scale. Off the scale. Let's just put it on the seat, see what difference that makes. Because this is where you'd be sitting, in the back. And you can see it's still off the scale, pretty much. Let's take it to the front seat. So this is the front seat now. So this is an absolute disaster. If anybody wants to do anything long term, like a long drive in this, and be in the car for several hours, that's if the range allows you to do it, of course. You're looking at very, very unhealthy, dangerous levels of electromagnetic frequencies which are hitting your body. Now this is different to the mobile and Wi-Fi and that kind of thing. This is electromagnetic frequencies hitting you. That's an interesting demonstration. Nice car.
Yeah, very nice car if you want to fry your nuts. Get yourself one of these, folks. This is an EMF reader. I'll try and put it here in front of me where you can maybe get it in focus. If I bring this close to my, you can hear it's going off. It registers the EMF coming out of the laptop in front of me. So I'm very keen. If you've got an electric car, let's see what reading you can get. Can you beat a Peugeot? But get that, folks, particularly blokes, although ladies, it's going to affect you just as well. But sitting down right down there in the bottom of the seat, boys, that's where your balls sit. So if you haven't had a fertility test and you do enjoy driving an electric vehicle, I'd go and have one, just between you, me, and the gatepost. Ladies, it will affect fertility for females as well, but because the areas that it affects in you are a little higher up, you're not sitting on them, so to speak, I imagine that there would be some effect there too. Also, the back seat seems to be much greater in its exposure level than the front seats, or at least the front driver's seat in that one. I'm very keen to see whether or not we can see what they're like here. We've got plenty of BYDs and Teslas and whatnot. I see them on the road every day. I don't know how many people like us own them, because not too many of us believe in the whole electric farce. But actually, I'm going down the coast tomorrow, so I might see if I can find an electric car dealer on the Gold Coast tomorrow. Go in and take one for a test drive. Could be fun. Be interesting to see the results of that. I think many people are going to be angry. And I saw in the chat before, there was a bit of conversation around the Seven Gaslight show and the debate that they, stifled and, well, didn't have a debate at all. I think that there's probably going to be a few more attempts at that kind of a debate coming up soon too. Channel 7 know they're onto something here now. Whether or not they understand that it's maybe not quite what they think it is, has the potential to win them a lot of fans, has the potential to lose them a lot of fans. You must understand at the moment, 7 is not terribly interested in looking outside its own shell. The media industry in Australia right now is undergoing a huge ruction. Southern Cross Oz Stereo, one of the largest radio operators in the nation, the people that own the Triple M network, own Fox in Melbourne, 2Day FM in Sydney, SAFM in Adelaide, B105 in Brisbane, that network have put off a number of people in the last week, including my best mate, who was production manager on the Gold Coast and had been for well over 10 years now, I think. He's of an age now that'll make it very difficult for him to pick up another job, particularly as there are no regional radio anymore because, well, they're just killing radio left, right, and centre. Channel 7 is part of, it has a number of broadcast agreements with small digital television service operators. Some of you may or may not be aware, particularly if you're living in northern parts of Victoria, Channel 10 ceased broadcasting through Mildura last Sunday. That is because the joint venture company that is responsible for selling the ads into the Channel 10 programming has not made money since it started business in 2006. And the operators have finally decided that they cannot continue. It makes no business sense to continue operating this way. So they've turned the power off and sacked everybody. In the northern parts of Victoria, there is no Channel 10. I can tell you that Tasmania, you stand a high chance of losing your Channel 10 before the year, even though they are making large noises that programming is guaranteed for another 3 years. The federal government have stumped up nearly $40 million to try and help these small, call them small businesses. They're not small businesses. These digital television companies have been set up in the leagues with some of the largest media companies this country has to offer. Channel 9, Channel 7, and Southern Cross Oz Stereo featuring largely among them. Now, why do you ask? Channel 7 and Channel 9 are part of a company that broadcasts Channel 10 content? Well, because that's the nature of the media beast, the greedy bastards. If they can make $1 out of the ads being played on Channel 10, then they will. And that's exactly what that meant. It also meant that to a certain point, they had to stump up money. Content agreements for television are very big numbers. The free-to-air and pay television networks are in a combative environment trying to get the best programs for their platforms. Free-to-air is no different. Netflix went mad and invested close to $1 billion in producing their own content, their own movies, all that sort of thing. Prime also went that way, but they went with more seasoned production values, put it that way. The way that you can tell a Netflix produced movie is that it will have very few, probably no car chases, no large external scenes, no large casts or large amounts of extras. It'll basically be shot in 2 rooms and 1 outdoor location if you're lucky. That's how Netflix make things so cheaply, and they get the writers to write around that kind of filming schedule. Ways and means to do it. Channel 10, on the other hand, makes no money. Makes no money. And for some reason, they're struggling to figure out why. I can tell you why. Have you ever watched The Project? A bunch of morons. Well, no. That's being disingenuous. A bunch of paid-off fools who refuse to question. Waleed Ali, who thinks he is the smartest man in the room every day of the week, failed the IQ test. If he didn't fail the IQ test and he actually does know what's going on, then he's a corrupt, evil bastard, just like the rest of them. The media are looking for excuses to give themselves an out now too. So just be careful of that. Thankfully, if you're watching Channel 10 in regional areas like the Northern Territory, Tasmania, Northern New South Wales, you are not going to be bothered with any of this bullshit any longer. There's a small mercy. I mean, what the hell's on Channel 10 that anybody would watch anyway? Certainly not The Project. And that has been dying a nasty death for the last 2 years. I would be amazed if it isn't cancelled before the end of the year. It will probably run until the end of the year, but I'll be amazed if it continues past November. And what will happen to Waleed Ali then? Well, I guess he'll just have to go to his other job on the ABC, where he gets to be as far left as he likes, say completely outrageous and stupid things, and still come off like a complete jerk. Well, he is working for the ABC, so he probably is a complete jerk. Certainly seems to be all they employ at the moment. And while the Australian media landscape is being torn asunder, and it really is, folks, media professionals, newbies, production hubs is what's got me. The Southern Cross Stereo have, this is Cass ringing me, doesn't realise I do a show, obviously. I've forgotten what I was saying there. What was I saying? Oh, media organisations. The media organisation or the media landscape is changing very rapidly in this country. And I think we are going to see a certain changing of certain guards. Eventually, if these lying bastards in our mainstream media are not taken out publicly and made to answer for their crimes, then the reason nobody watches Channel 10 is it's so woke, it makes you sick. The only people that watch Channel 10 are kids, and they don't have any income to spend. All right? Please don't think television is there for your entertainment. It's not. It's there to brainwash you and for them to make money in the gaps between the brainwashing. And even then, I would suggest that some of the ads are brainwashing as well. So don't think for a moment that they love putting on all this great programming for you because they just think that's wonderful. They don't. They just know that they can't get money out of you if they don't have anything on their screen. Hopefully, they've got smart people and employ good people to come up with great creative content that gives you good programming, good shows, good solid audience base that you can go and sell ads to. Channel 10 haven't had that in years. Their audience has gone. See, unfortunately, their audience ages while they and their mentality, their mindset does not. So while the 14-year-olds used to think that what Waleed was cool, the 22-year-olds now think he's a dickhead and not worth listening to. Oh, and he's old, like the rest of them, although not as old as that Wilkinson cow that used to run the joint. Anyway, I think some of the comments that I saw earlier were that people are starting to get angry, starting to wake up. Well, I'm going to leave you with something that I've discovered out of America, and I believe that is getting much closer to the edge. The people have been pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. But I'm not sure that we are quite at this level yet, but I don't think we're far behind. Now, the big difference between what I'm about to play you and what would happen if this was an Australian, there is one significant difference. One of us hasn't been...
I got a bill today from the IRS for $700, and I'm going to explain to the IRS why I don't fucking have it. First off, everyone that is inside of the federal government, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, I don't give a fuck. If you work up there, it's your fault. All of you have decided that printing money and destroying the economy is just totally fucking okay. A bag of Doritos went from $2 to $12 in 2 years, and you want money from me for doing that? On top of that, I don't have any money because you're taking 60% of what I make through my LLC and absolutely crushing small businesses. And on top of that, the only reason I'm a small business is because during the imagination period of the flu scare of 2019 until fucking forever, I guess, you mandated that I take an imagination shot that I didn't need and no one knew anything about. And if I didn't take it, you took my fucking career away from me. You took my ability to feed my child. You took that away from me. And for 2 years, I have sold t-shirts in parking lots, and I have worked this dead-end job at a gun store, and I have cut trees and mowed lawns and done anything I could. Everything I had to do just to feed my child. Not vacations, not new clothes, not a new truck, not thriving in my life, not living in my life, just surviving day to day. And if I don't pay you $700, I go to jail. What is slavery then?
That's because you got a tax bill of $700 from the government, trying to extract more from you. How much has your rent gone up? How much has your mortgage gone up? I've been having conversations with people in the last couple of days about just that very thing. And we hear the news yesterday or the day before that inflation in Australia is still creeping upwards. What do you think that's going to mean for the Australian Reserve Bank next month and that Reserve Bank governor? They're going to put the rate up again. You can be guaranteed of it, I think. And I feel for it because I know there are many of you that are right at the very end of what you can afford for your mortgage. You've sacrificed everything else in your lives. I know people whose mortgage has doubled, essentially, in the last 2 years. And they have no way of being able to, pay more. What's going to happen here? Are we going to let ourselves be kicked out of our houses, are we? Because the banks only made $5.9 billion last year. Do you think the people are going to wake up to the fact that we are not being treated fairly and that this whole experience we are going through at the moment, fuel prices, housing prices, food prices, is engineered deliberately by those people you voted for last election? Now, it doesn't matter whether they got in, they got out. We're meant to believe that we voted for people who would do this to us. Do you believe that? Okay, I can believe that those people went to Canberra hoping to do the right thing, and then the party got them and chewed them up. And we're seeing a great example of what the Labor Party does to people that do not do what they're told. Just last week, I think it was, one of their Labor senators crossed the floor to vote with the Teals. God help us. Light Labor. About supporting Palestine. Now she's been kicked out of the caucus, the Labor caucus. That must be like a holiday to some people, surely to God. Can you imagine? You'd want waiters to walk into that room, the amount of bullshit that'd be floating on the floor, wouldn't you? Anyway, that's the kind of politics we play. You can't have a conscious vote if you're with the Labor Party, and I suspect probably the Liberal Party. Certainly not A1. Cross the floor on A1, you'll be a bloody Freemason. Yes. Look out. British sort of a day here, and I'm at a point now where I am. You're probably noticing the Pink Floyd wind cheater. It's the cleanest one. I've got no way to get the stuff dry at the moment, so to do the washing. Can do the washing, just can't get it dry. So hopefully, fingers crossed, tomorrow it'll be a nice day and we can go off and do a few things. Friday night free for all coming up later this week. Pardon me, Sean Ambrose might rejoin for that live. Sean has been putting in freedom of information requests on a great many things, and he has been denied access to certain public documents. Obviously, when you continually get denied, it's rather interesting, and the excuses that you're given for the denial for access are rather interesting. Sean has prosecuted that, pushed it forward, taken it to its nth degree, and I'll let him talk further about it on the free for all on Friday night. But I think Sean may have uncovered something, and it'll be an interesting discussion to have. So that's something to keep your mind open for Friday night, the Friday free for all. Don't forget, if you are wondering about what you should do with your gold and silver, I can tell you, add to it. That's the best thing you can be doing at the moment. If you don't or haven't already availed yourself of some of the Ainsley Bullion 1/10 silver rounds, I hope to pick some of those up this week and be able to show you. I did go in to pick some up last week, but it was all sold out. So they're very, very popular and very, very useful if you want to maybe start an alternative economy in your area or alternative way. Dear folks. So the only thing you need is a little bit of silver. So desire to go cheaper, and of course you can get in those 1/10 rounds, which at the moment I think a bit over $7. That's what they're worth. So a couple of those, you've got yourself a nice breakfast and a coffee, and I haven't come across a business yet that isn't happy to accept silver in any kind of way for what they're providing. Up to them too. Been talking about getting down to Byron Bay, of course, for the Byron Bob, and I'll catch up with David and try and make that happen early next week once I've got some Byron Bobs to go down with and enjoy. But I'm very keen to see how Byron Bay are doing this, because it's flourishing in the Byron region. And I know that there are folks up on the Sunshine Coast and further north in other areas of Queensland that are interested in trying to get the Byron Bob thing happening in their part of the world too, as well as down south. I've been approached by some people in Victoria and some people in New South Wales as well. So if we can help, we will absolutely help. If you're interested in getting a Byron Bob economy happening in your part of the world, then reach out, carl@vofhq.com, and I'll tell you or put you in contact with some folks who might be able to help in that regard. And don't forget, if you are going to go and buy some silver or some gold or whatever, go to Ainsley and remember to mention Voice of Freedom or my name. If you're going to buy online, we did a little show about it a week or so ago. There is a notes section in the online ordering process. Just type in VOF or Carl in there, and you will get a little discount. That discount adds up. At the end of the day, you'll be able to buy more precious metal. You'll only get that discount if you mention Voice of Freedom or my name, or if you're buying online in the notes section, in the ordering part, in the notes, just put VOF and you will get that discount straight away. So every little bit helps, and that's all we can aim to do, is try and give everybody a little bit of a leg up where we can, a little bit of a helping hand where we can. And if you are interested in looking at X39, there might be some way you can make a few bucks out of that too. Well, then the X39 patches, which I still swear by, I haven't got one on at the moment, but thankfully, touch wood, that's because I'm not aching and paining too much at the moment. But they are my go-to thing now for any ache and pain I have, and I find them absolutely amazing. Truly stunning. I'm so blessed that they work on me, and I hope if you suffer from chronic pain or even just headaches, backaches, neck ache. I've got a buggered neck, so I get neck and back aches pretty heavily. It's life-changing. At least it has been for me, so maybe it can be for you too. You can get the patches through us, and we get a little donation on the way past. I think it's about $10. So if a packet of those can help you get through your month as good as it helps me get through mine, God bless you. I hope you go off and enjoy it. All right, folks, love you lots. Have yourself a fabulous evening, and we'll be back tomorrow with a whole heap more madness, mayhem, and probably some stories of dickhead drivers on the roads, if I'm honest.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!